Hello and welcome back to Hot Take here on No Bullshit, where we review the latest movies and give you our hot take on them. Today's topic is the three-letter titled movie Kin, an action science fiction crime thriller that just came out this past weekend. It's an original story and it's got some really cool stuff in it too, but did Kin stick the landing on its story though? And why was it such a bomb at the box office this weekend? We're going to talk about that and more today on Hot Take. In short, Kin is a pretty good movie. It's got a lot of cool, fun, action elements in there too, with a nice sci-fi twist as well. There's a cool high-tech gun, there's some people from another world trying to find it, and then there's also some crime and some other stuff going on in the real world too. It's set in Detroit, which of course is a crime-ridden part of America right now. And I would say overall, Kin is pretty damn good. It's interesting and it's something different too, which is refreshing. It's always nice to see an original story coming out of Hollywood, of course, but the movie's not perfect either. There are a few drawbacks, the story can seem a little trite, and I can see why mainstream audiences might not like this one so much. If you look at the trailers, it might seem a little more sci-fi and a little more high-tech and futuristic, but really, that gun that's in the video is a small part of another story. There's a big crime caper thing going on here that doesn't have much to do with the sci-fi aspects, so some might think that's misleading. What appears to be a sci-fi high-tech thriller actually turns into a pretty standard people on the run crime movie, but not in a bad way. I think it's well executed and it has a lot of flair to it too, and the sci-fi elements are fun, but I think there's just not enough there to justify the way they showed it in the trailer. One thing that was another pleasant surprise in this movie was the great cast. I guess I didn't really know much going into this movie, but right when the credits rolled while watching it, I was pleasantly surprised to see all the cool people in it. It had Dennis Quaid, it had James Franco, Zoe Kravitz, all of which are great actors that have done amazing movies in recent history. Everyone did a fantastic job acting in this movie. Even though the script might have been lacking in stuff for them to work with, they made it awesome. Especially James Franco as the villain, who was legitimately crazy and scary looking. Really cool to watch. The newer people in the movie did well too. There's a new black kid actor who's kind of the lead, along with his adoptive older brother, this white guy, who both did an awesome job as well. They held up. That brings us to the story summary for Kin. Basically, the story goes like this. Kin sees a black boy who goes around the town trying to find scrap metal, and he eventually stumbles across this high-tech super weapon. The gun that's in the trailer. It's this sci-fi gun. It's got a laser aimer on it. It's got lots of high-tech functions. It shoots like a cannon. It's a really cool plot device, and a lot of the movie is about the mystery behind this device. You're trying to decide, where did it come from? Is it from the future? Is it from an alien planet? And everything is kind of a mystery for most of the movie. That leads us to the rest of the story. You see, this is the misdirect or supposed misdirect I was talking about before. Basically, it starts off sci-fi, him finding this gun, and then it quickly turns into him and his brother going on the run, doing this little road trip after he committed this crime, and just trying to survive from there. And they happen to have this sci-fi weapon. So, not to say that crime part wasn't well done. Like I said, James Franco was a good villain and he's the one that's chasing after them. He's legitimately scary, but the gun part kind of just comes in and out briefly, and then it comes back up at the end too. And I'm not going to spoil things, but there is a big ending where you find stuff out. There's some twist and it's pretty cool where it goes, but I think at the same time it tries to lead off into a sequel a little too much, a little annoying too, so that probably made it lose some points with audiences. The next thing I want to talk about here is the cinematography. This movie looked awesome. The camera work was great shots, great definition of the film. It looked really high tech. I want to say it reminded me of Batman v Superman, not for the shitty story reasons, but I always loved the way Zack Snyder directed things and made things look kind of like dark and bleak, and Kin has that look to it. As I said earlier, it's set in Detroit, it's set in a crime-ridden place, it's kind of like a negative, people scrapping, barely surviving. I think it's still set in the present though, so it's not like post-apocalyptic, it's just some people living in the ghetto, trying to survive, and then eventually they get out and make some money. But back to the cinematography, it looked awesome. Everything looked cool. The shots, the ambience, there was really good soundtrack, like synthetic soundtrack that matched the vibes, the sci-fi vibes, and also the gun looked amazing. The effects on the gun were really awesome. Like, it was just basically looks like this little black rectangle box, and then it shoots out and it has a handle and it's a gun, and then it has different modes, and it has a little laser focus eyepiece on the top that looks awesome. The effects are really good in this movie, and there's even some cooler effects that come up with the villains that are chasing them. So they have two people chase him in the movie. One is a gang member who's just a normal evil gang guy. That's James Franco. And then on the other side, there's the two black army people that are trying to find that gun. They come from another place. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not sure if they even explain it all here, but basically those two guys have other high-tech weapons too that scan the planet. They have these little high-tech laser beams that kind of like recreate the scenes of crimes, and it looks really cool. That's probably the best part about this movie, is the great attention to detail, the cinematography, the music backing that up, and the special effects are on point as well. Cool effects, cool special effects, cool set pieces, some freezing time moments, and other things in there that look really awesome. But it is kind of brought down by a weaker story, so I think that's why this isn't an excellent movie. This isn't going to be a 4 or a 5. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the rating. I will easily give Kin 3 out of 5 flames. I almost wanted to give it a 3.5 or a 4, but there are a few drawbacks, a few negative sides to it. It's not perfect, but it is fun. If you're interested and you like this kind of sci-fi stuff, if you like crime thrillers, you'll enjoy it. Has a lot of crime aspects to it. There's some gang violence, some criminal stuff, some stealing and stuff, so that's pretty cool too. But overall, 3 out of 5. Not recommended for everyone. If you're not into sci-fi or you're not interested in the trailer, you might not be into it. And if you're expecting a big sci-fi futuristic thing, you might be let down too, because it's kind of just splattered in there, just kind of peppered in there a little bit, but just enough to give you a tease. And I actually do want to see what happens in a sequel now. Thanks for tuning in to a new episode of Hot Take, everyone. We'll see you next week to talk about the latest movie.